Hello viewers and welcome to my new video. I know that I haven't published anything for a while, but I have been busy recording my album, and I'm really pleased to say that I've actually now finished recording every single part for the album, all the bass, all the guitars and the vocal parts, and I'm now ready to start mixing. And I thought that I'd do a series about this, so you can also learn from what I'm doing. So if you are new to mixing, then I hope that these videos will help you with your own projects. And just a quick disclaimer, I am not a professional mixing engineer. What I'm saying here and the knowledge that I'm passing on to you is stuff that I've learned over the years. Some of the things that I've learned from reading books and researching things, watching other people's videos, and experimenting with my own recordings. So before I get to it, I'm just gonna show you a couple of books whilst we're on this subject. So the first book here is this one. It's called Guerrilla Home Recording: How to Get Great Sound from Any Studio by Carl Coriat. And this particular book I really value because I've actually learned a lot from it, and especially at the beginning when I knew absolutely nothing about recording, the process of recording or mixing. And I've had this book for quite a few years now, and it's really helped me along. And the second book that I've got is the Illustrated Home Recording Handbook. So this is the ultimate guide to making music on your computer. All right. So again, a very helpful book. There's a lot of terminology explained in that book if you are struggling to understand some of the concepts that you may hear. So before I get to actually showing you my own project and my own mix, I'm just going to explain some basics. So if you're absolutely new to mixing and you've never done that before, essentially what mixing is, it's an art of balancing all the tones, sounds, all the instruments and the voice in your track. Okay, so what I mean by that is that it's about separation, so that everything has it in its own place, and is best placed in that mix. So that's really what it's about. And how can we achieve that? So there's actually 3 dimensions to it. It's like a triangle, if you think about it in that way. And actually Carl Coriat explains this really well in his book, but I'm just going to tell you what it actually is about. If you think about it from that perspective, the first dimension is about the dynamics, and it's essentially the volume of each individual instrument or voice in your track. So you can manipulate the volume so that some of the instruments sit further in the background, and then some sit maybe more up front. They're more in your face when you listen to that track. The second aspect is a frequency range. So again, you can manipulate individual instruments, placing them within different frequency range, and actually working with their sort of natural frequencies, and ensuring that they are accentuated and the other frequencies are cut, and so on and so forth. And the third dimension is the placement of these instruments in a stereo spectrum. So essentially it's about a process called panning. So you essentially place instruments and sounds in different places on that stereo spectrum from left to right, and some of them go right in the middle as well. So I'm just going to now share my screen with you, and I'm just going to explain that I actually made a separate video on this, and I wanted to publish it, but I've actually come across a problem. And it's something I've described in my other video, actually, when I was talking about staying motivated when working on your own, and sometimes these things appearing, where some of these obstacles that seem to be having an impact. And this is one of these situations really where I've already recorded the video and I've recorded my screen, but unfortunately no sound was recorded. So I've checked that now and I've rectified it, and just checked that the sound is definitely recording, so you can actually hear what I'm doing. So because I've done it that way, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to retrace my tracks, and hopefully show you what I'm doing here. So first and foremost, just to explain to you, this is the track that is going to be published on my album, and the title of the track is Self-Rediscovery, and I'm most likely I will be publishing this as a single, probably the first single from the album. And what I've actually done before even attempting to mix the bass, I actually did a top-down mixing method, which is essentially about just putting these individual tracks in balance in terms of their volume, so you reach a ballpark situation really, where you are happy. Okay, this sounds roughly in the right place, so now I can start diving into individual instruments. Okay, so today I'm actually gonna be showing you how I've mixed the bass, and then I will do other videos on the guitars and on the vocal as well. So first and foremost, this is a raw track with nothing done to the bass at all. Okay, so you get the idea. Essentially, that's what the song sounds like, and actually, the bass already sounds pretty decent without anything being done to it. But first and foremost, I'm gonna show you what I did in terms of mixing that bass. And I've actually got another video. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch it, and it's called How I Record Bass. And in that video I essentially explain that I used a way in which I record two tracks. So essentially I've got a DI'd signal going directly into my audio interface, and I've got a separate signal going, well, it's an amp, bass amp that's basically mic'd up, and basically so now you can see that I've got these two tracks number 1 and 2. Track number 1 is the DI track, and then track number 2 is the mic'd bass amp, and they sound slightly different. So I just show you. First of all, I'll play you that. So this is the DI track. That's the mic'd up track. Okay. So that's exactly what you get. So you've got two separate channels, and they have a slightly different tone to them, which I really like, because that gives me more options really when it comes to mixing. So firstly, what I did with this particular mix, I sort of grouped these two tracks together to actually like make almost like a one single track from them. And the way I've done it is by using a bus, which is another really cool feature that you will find in every DAW probably. And this is bus B in my particular case here, because I like to use a bus B for bass, because it's obviously B for bass. It kind of is intuitive, and I don't have to then struggle to remember, is bass under A, C, or D, or whatever. So I always try to group it under bus B. So if I just show you what I've done, so under this bus B here, I've got a plugin chain. So effectively, that's the latest one, but I've actually did bass tracks together, option 1. So again, something really important to remember is that to actually make your own presets, because when you are mixing, for example, say you've got a number of songs that you want to do for your album, and if you want them songs to be consistent, you start from one song, obviously. You set it up. So for example, your bass tone, you set it up, and then you make sure that you always save your preset. So effectively you can replicate that when it comes to the other songs. Okay, so this is my preset, and I'm just gonna deselect these options. And the first thing that I've noticed, let me just do that before I go any further. I'm going to assign these 2 tracks to the bus B. So now I know that both tracks that I'm dealing with now are under this particular bus. So any changes I'm making to this bus, I'm gonna be affecting both of these channels at the same time. Now, first thing I've noticed when I listened to that was there's a lot of noise on that bass, particularly coming from the amp. So what I've decided to use is this denoiser VST plugin, which is actually, that's part of the Isotope Ozone package that I actually have, and it's a really good noise gate. So let me just play that to you. Firstly, I'm just gonna solo both tracks and just have a listen to what they sound like. Yeah, lots of noise, right? You can hear it straight away. So if I click on that denoiser now, immediately it just basically killed all that noise in a split of a second. And this is what the actual plugin looks like. So immediately I've got complete noise reduction, very clean bass, no problem whatsoever. So this is my first step to actually deal with any track, to be honest with you. Just clean it up, from any unwanted noise, anything like that, really. So that's like perfect preparation for the next step. So the next thing that I've done here is I've used an EQ. And again, this is a type of EQ that aims at cleaning up the track, this time from any unwanted frequencies. Okay, so when I was talking to you previously about the triangle, if you remember that, dynamics, frequencies, and stereo spectrum, right? So effectively what I've done here is I have used this is a multi-band EQ. So as you can see, this band number 1 has a high pass filter on it. This is what I've used at 40 hertz. All right, so this is essentially what it does, is it cuts out anything below 40 hertz. And essentially what that does to the bass has a lot of really low frequencies, and anything really below that sort of maybe 40 hertz range is considered rumble, that sort of unwanted low end that it's almost not audible to your ears. You won't be able to hear the difference, but it's there, and it has that energy that you essentially don't want in your track. And the other filter that I've applied on the other side of this is the low pass filter, and I've basically cut everything outside of 800 Hz on the other side, which practically the bass doesn't really venture that far, but again, you're just making sure that all these frequencies are, cut out nicely, and it allows space for other instruments, the vocals and so on, and cymbals and so on and so forth. So when I play this, you will actually see that where the bass actually is operating, it's operating within that range here. So you can see that there. Okay, so the next thing, and actually what I didn't show you is actually when I activate this. So I'm gonna play with it, without it, sorry. Now with it. Yeah, so all that does really is just keeps those frequencies in check. Okay, after that, what I've done is I've used a mastering EQ. Again, this is from Isotope Ozone. And what you will notice here that I've cut down a little bit, around 484 Hertz. And this was only because I actually used this particular mastering EQ here for finding any unwanted noise. So essentially, I just sort of used like a really narrow slope, and then just like sort of go up with it, and then sort of search for where that unwanted hiss or noise might be, and then I would just like cut it down wherever I may find it. So this is what I've actually done. So again, without it, and with it. These differences are marginal. They're almost not noticeable by a human ear, but again, I know it was there before, so I've cut it down. It's sort of, it clears up the mix really. Right. So after that, the next thing I've done here is the another equalization, and the reason I've done that was because after I've done what I've done, I still thought that the bass sounded a little bit moody, a little bit sort of on the dark side, so I just wanted to make it sort of cut through the mix a little bit better. So I just cut those mids again here. I cut down the bass just a little bit, 1 decibel down, and I've boosted treble quite a lot. So let me just play it to you so you can hear what it sounds like. So this is without it. And then I'm gonna apply it. Yeah, so you can hear straight away that difference. There's definitely more top end now in that bass. So if I just play that to you with the drums now. With the rest of the mix. So that's that, and the final action that I took on this particular in this particular example is a multi-band compressor. So and everybody will recommend this, and really you've got to use compressor on your bass because the bass guitar has a tendency to jump up and down quite a lot. When you play, you will see your wave form on your recording, and what you will notice, and you can see it here very clearly, that some of the nodes are quieter, and then you've got those louder nodes, where you can see the volume is going down, up and down, up and down. So to control those dynamics, you've got to use a compressor, which will essentially smooth them all out to sort of put them on a sort of similar level. Well, anyway, I really like using this multi-band compressor for that purpose. And what you will notice here, that I've got it set up. Band 1 and band 2, well, band 1 is actually -40, threshold -40, then you've got -30 on band 2, -20 on band 3, and then -40 again. But on band 4, however, what I actually will tell you, that practically speaking, you won't be able to hear any bass in that band 4 range, and the reason for that is obviously because I've already cut out when I did the EQing area, I cut out everything above 800 hertz. So I've done some gain boost of 5 dB on each of these, and the ratio I've used here is 2:1. So that's what I've gone for. So I play that to you again. I'm just gonna solo that bass and play that to you just on its own. With a compressor now. So I personally think that that compression adds a lot of tightness to that bass tone, and if I play it with the drums, with the rest of the mix. So, I quite like this particular version, but what I've got to tell you as well is that I've also done something different with it, and I'm gonna explain why. So when I've recorded the 2 separate bass tracks, it was for a very good reason, because I was hoping to use what's known as a New York bass equalization technique. And how that technique actually works is that you use 2 separate bass tracks. One of them you just focus on the low end, and on the other one you focus specifically on the top end, on treble. And by having that separation, you can actually really focus and accentuate those specific frequencies. So I'm just gonna show you what that sounds like as well. And what I'm gonna do here is I will show you what I've done on in each individual track. So first and foremost, I've got this bass amp track. So I've got my plug-in chain. And what I've done here, first of all, I've used that denoiser again, so that just cuts out all the noise. But secondly, what I've done is I've used the EQ, but in the way that I've used the high pass filter here for 40 hertz, but on the other side, I've actually on the band number 3, I've actually cut out everything above sort of 391.5 in terms of the any high frequencies, you know. So this is very low. So when I apply it like this, if I just solo that particular track, sorry. I only hear the very, very low stuff going on. I also have the multi-band compressor on this one, which adds, and you will notice that I've only used it for band 1 and band 2. There is nothing on band 3 or band 4, and that's purely because I've cut out all those frequencies out anyway. But you will notice as well that when I've activated the compressor, it tightens up the sound immediately. So that's my you know, sound from the amp, and then I've got my and then I've got the other channel here, which is the DI channel. So on the DI channel, I did the opposite. Again, I used the denoiser, but on the EQ, I've actually cut out using the high pass filter. I've cut out all the frequencies below 315.5 hertz. So essentially, that's kind of, I've got rid of all that, and by doing that, if I just play you the difference. So that's the just using the denoiser, and now listen to this with the EQ. Right? All of a sudden, you can tell that I've just basically taken out all the low end, just left the high end, and on its own, it sounds really horrible, to be honest with you, but it does make sense in a mix. I've just added a little bit of a boost here, 1 dB on that one, around 460 hertz. Just a tiny boost here, again, of that sort of you know, mid-range sort of frequency, just to boost that high end a little bit on that bass again, right? And the compressor, again, I've used, right? This is the compressor at the moment, what I'm using, right? That's because there's practically nothing here or there. I've not used anything, but here, particularly in band 2, you can hear what the compressor is doing to the sound. And you can hear that there's barely anything in band 1 because all those low frequencies have been cut out. Alright, so now that I've shown you what I've done with this, now when you play them together, right, just listen to what they sound like when I play them together. So the low end and the high end, but separated together. Right? Can you hear the difference? So I think this actually adds a lot of character to the bass, because you can control that high end, you know, of the bass separately, and I think it actually allows the bass tone to cut through the mix a little bit better. Okay, so this is that. But on top of that, what I've done as well, so now I've done the individual mixing on the individual bass tracks. I then still went ahead and sort of grouped them together under the bus. So I'm just gonna show you what I've done with that. So if I go to my plugin chain again here, I've actually called this bass tracks together with separate plugin chains. Right? So two things. is just to add a little bit extra to the overall bass sound. First and foremost, what I've used here is a distortion, and this is a very subtle distortion. Actually, this is my built-in plugin in my DAW, and I've just used a preset that was already here, which is called Slight Cheap Fuzz, and that's all I've done. So if you listen to it without it, and then just I apply the distortion, all it really does, it just adds a little bit of that distortion, not too much, but when you listen to it, I've got these two on a boost, so you can tell that distortion just adds that just the extra touch. You know, it's not a lot, but you can tell that it's there. And the last thing on that bass tone is a mastering reverb, right? So this is something that I tend to use. It's actually called light ambience. Again, this is a preset, so you can actually hear it. So if I just play that without and then with. Again, this is only a very slight reverb, but it just adds a little bit more room, space, I suppose, to the overall bass sound. Okay, with the drums. Now with the entire mix. Alright, so we're gonna be focusing on guitars in the next installment about the mixing that I'm gonna do. But for now, that is it. I'm actually pretty happy with the result, with what the bass actually sounds like. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've taken quite a lot out of what I've shown you today. And don't forget to subscribe, because I'm currently on 45 subscribers and I really want to get to 100 subscribers as soon as possible. So please, if as many as you would like to subscribe, that would be much appreciated, because it really helps me to push my channel further to more people, so more people can find out about me and about my channel. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.